Hey everyone, Ryan Young, KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu. I hope you're doing well. So today is the 2nd of July, 2021. Hear my dog in the background there. So that means I'm at home. So I'm on my back porch right now and I'm getting ready to cook some dinner. Carnivore, of course. And I just wanted to kind of get some thoughts together for you who may have just become black belts. Yes. You're a black belt now. Now what? So I did videos on, when you become blue belt, purple belt, brown belt. Now we'll do one for black belt. And I'm not sure if I've done one already. I know I did something about having to do with the black belt, but I think it was more about the mindset of being a black belt. So here you were, whatever, you were a brown belt and you've been training jiu-jitsu for a long time, 8, 10, 12, 15, however many years you've been training. And you're either surprised by it or your instructor told you about it, but you earned your black belt. And first of all, I want to say congratulations. It's something that very rarely do people actually earn a jiu-jitsu black belt, whether it be BJJ Sport or whether it be the self-defense Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And I know some of you are going to say there's no difference. Well, there is a difference. And I've been doing this long enough to know that I know what I'm talking about in this case. So now you're a black belt. What do you do? Well, I guess for some of you, this will be a lifelong goal, or not a lifelong, at least your goal over the last however long you started jiu-jitsu. You always wanted to be a black belt. Now you're a black belt. Now what? If that was really your goal, then I guess this is the end of the road, huh? Then you go, now you collected your black belt, now go collect another black belt, another martial art. I know a lot of people who have multiple black belts in Taekwondo, Karate, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, whatever. And they just like to collect belts. You have a lot of people that would put on their website, I guess as part of their CV. For those of you who don't know, CV, was that curriculum vitae? Some Latin term that basically means it's your resume. And they want to go and list all their black belts. Just like how you get a lot of instructors, sport guys that like to list their accomplishments in the tournament arena. PENS, IBJJF, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt, whatever. And it's good. I mean, you earned it. You worked hard. Why not, right? So if your goal is a black belt, now you've reached that goal, then you just got to ask yourself, what do I do now? And then go ahead and figure it from there. For most of us, once you get the black belt, it doesn't mean anything. It's just simply a marker in the road, and you just happen to pass that marker. But do you teach or do you not teach? Or do you just do competition? So, there are, for instance, here at KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, what's a black belt? Well, let's say you're a black belt and you just want to train. You want to continue doing what you're doing as a brown belt, and now that you just happen to be wearing a black belt, you're just going to be training as a black belt. You like being at the school, you like training, you like just the camaraderie, you like the group that you're hanging out with, and you like the fact that you're doing jiu-jitsu. Then the black belt that you would have would be one of two for us, and it doesn't matter, they're the same. One is your straight black belt with no bars on it, or a black belt with a white bar. That's it. It just means you're a black belt. It's not anything special, you're just a black belt. I mean, well, that is special being a black belt. Don't get me wrong there, because it is a big deal. But let's say you wanted to teach, and let's say you think to yourself, finally, we do have one black belt that actually came to us as a black belt. He relocated to our area, and when I met with him, he just said, no, I just want to train. I just like training. Okay, fine. So that's what he did. So we switched out his black belt because he came in with one with a red bar, which for us is the incorrect belt. So he had an all-black black belt, and he trained. He had a great time, still does. But after we had gone to a tournament, he was helping to coach several of the members that were competing in the tournament, and he enjoyed it. It's a great feeling to be able to help somebody and see what the result is of you helping someone with your expertise. So after that tournament, he approached me and he says, hey Ryan, I'd like to start in the instructor training program. I said, great, that's awesome. I know you'd be awesome at it. So at that point in time, we switched his belt out. And all our instructors, whether you be blue, purple, brown, black belt, and you're an instructor, you get a red bar. Now the red bar with nothing else, no professor bars as we call them, with the white bar on the top and white bar on the bottom. If I had my belt handy here, I'd show it to you, but I don't. So, but you know what it looks like. It's got the white stripes above the red bar and the white stripe below the red bar. The red alone says that you're an instructor here at KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, but you're still undergoing your training, your teacher training, in addition to your jiu-jitsu training. You know, we're always going to do training jiu-jitsu wise. We're still learning. We're always learning. So when you enter the instructor training program here at KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, and I think we've got a great program. You know, it's taken Master Dave and I since I mean, he kind of taught me informally back when I got my black belt in 2012. And you know, the thing is, I'd always seek information from him. You know, how do you do this? Why do you do this? And you know, I ask a lot of questions. I'm very inquisitive. So when it came time for me to get something started in the Flower Mound, Texas campus, actually I started in Highland Village, Texas. Then I started teaching the students who had the aptitude and the interest to teach. I started teaching them early on. Started from when they were blue belts. Although now that we've got enough, I'm going to go into another video about our teaching program. But you know, then you decide as a black belt that you want to start teaching. So if your instructor is into it, sometimes they're not. You know, I've got a friend who told me as soon as he got his black belt, then his instructor basically pushed him out of the studio and didn't want him to come around anymore, which is kind of weird, but maybe it's just one of those where he just thinks, okay, now you're a black belt, now it's time for you to go leave the nest and flap your wings and fly and do your own thing. So that's what he did. Here at KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, we like to make sure we keep our people around. We don't want to lose anybody, and you know, but that's just kind of the way we think. So you're black belt, now you decide you want to go into a teacher training program. Now, if your school has a teacher training program, that's optimal. 99% of schools do not have an instructor training program. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you have 100 jiu-jitsu schools. Only one of them will have a formal instructor training program. Now, when I say formal, I mean where there's actually a path to teaching, there's training involved, there's mentorship involved. And it's not just here, you're a black belt, go ahead and start teaching this class. Now, many of you black belts, and even some of you purple and brown belts, I know. That's how you got started teaching. One day, the instructor just said, you're a purple belt. Why don't you start teaching this class? And you're like, okay. And you know, you want to do anything you can to help out, so you did. Now, did you know how to teach? No. What did you teach? Just whatever you thought about that day. In fact, you asked your instructor, what do I teach today? He goes, I don't know, whatever you feel like teaching. Or why don't you teach, you know, De La Hiva to back take? And that's what you taught. And maybe you didn't really know how to do it well, but you just did it the best you could. And years pass by, maybe you figure out how to do it, or maybe you go ahead and watch some YouTube videos or something, and then you do it that way. Who knows? I don't. But that's how everybody gets into teaching. You learn by doing, which is good, I guess. But it's a whole lot easier if you learn first, where you're actually taught step by step by step by step. And along the way, you do. You do, you learn. You do, you learn. You do, you learn. And when I say you learn, that means you're being taught, formally taught. But you're a black belt, now you decide this is the next step I want to take. I want to someday own a school, or I want to start teaching jiu-jitsu. Now that I'm a black belt, I've spent a lot of time with myself. Now I want to start sharing it. So you go that route. You decide you want to teach. Now, what else can you do as a black belt? Well, you could open your own school and launch John Smith Jiu-Jitsu in whatever town you're at. Maybe teach out of your garage, maybe teach out of a studio that does martial arts already, or teach out of a gym. You know, you can be imaginative. You can teach anywhere. You can teach out of a church. And then you start teaching. These are all the avenues that you can take as a black belt. Now, also look at the video that we just did a little while ago about whether you need a master. So you could ask your current master, instructor, professor, whatever you want to call him, the guy who gave you your black belt. And tell him, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. Will you help me? What kind of help are you looking for? I don't know. Just I've never done this before, so why don't you tell me? I mean, you've done it. You know, I'd hope to think that you're successful at what you do. I want to be the next you, right? So those are some paths you can take, right? And then eventually, you go on to however long you want. You know, some instructors will give their black belts the professor bars from day one. Now, KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, let's say you came up through the ranks as late as, say, brown belt, and you started teaching. as a brown belt. Let's say day one you get a brown belt and you say, I'd like to join the instructor training program. So you be put in, you get a red bar on your brown belt, and you start going through the drill on teaching. You start attending the instructor training classes that we have. When Dave comes in town, you attend his Sunday class that he does here, because he does them also in California every Sunday, and he does one a month here in Texas, and I do the remaining 3 when Dave's not here. And it's really a little session where only the instructors get together. We go over how to teach a particular concept. I answer questions that they might have developed during their week teaching classes, right? Your assigned classes. And where I can, I'll go out and I'll watch you. What I'll do sometimes is for people who cannot have a time slot of their own, when they come to my class, I'll usually make them teach and I'll watch them. And I even have where Professor Zach, he's now a black belt professor, and he's been teaching since he was a blue belt. As soon as he got his black belt, he got the professor bars right away, because he's been teaching since for years, since he was a blue belt. But on the other hand, let's say you're a black belt and you decide at that time you want to start teaching. That's where you get the red bar for 2 years. After 2 years, you get your professor bars. And then your clock starts ticking from the moment you got the red bar on your belt as your degrees, once you're a black belt, right? So 1 more year, that's 3 years, you get your first degree, right? So we run Hicks and Gracie's Jiu-Jitsu Global Federation guidelines. So it's 3, 3, 3. So that'd be 9 years for your first 3, and then 5, 5, 5. So another 15 years. So that would mean that to get to complete the 3s, complete the 5s, you're at 24 years. Or is it 31? 31 years. Wow. To get your 7th degree. Anyway, it's a long time. I don't want to think about it. I don't even think about it now. So that would be really your path to black belt, or once you are a black belt. Now what, right? Number 1 is you just train, just keep doing what you do. Number 2 is you move on and find another endeavor to conquer. And number 3 is you stick around and not just train, but also help to pass the art on, which we all hope you're going to do. But it's a personal thing. Some people just don't like teaching. And that's like your next journey. The journey you take as a black belt, you continue on with your journey. It's like something new and some new mountain to climb. That's the way I look at it. And that's a whole nother journey altogether. But it's a very rewarding journey. Because I don't know how much, as far as rewards you'll get, training, even once you get the brown belt, because once you get the brown belt, you pretty much know everything there is to know. To get the black belt, a lot of it is just other criteria, subjective criteria that your instructor will have. I know Elio Gracie had, 10 or 20 different criteria that you needed to meet to become a professor, once you are an instructor. And it was stuff like being on time, being clean, and keeping your temper, and various things. I don't know what the criteria are. I wish I did, though. So maybe if one of you know what it is, just go ahead and put in the comments below so I'll take a look at it. Anyway, I hope this is something that kind of helps answer questions for those of you who have just gotten your black belt. And most of you are not black belts watching this video, so I know you're going to watch it anyway. And it kind of gives you an idea of what happens once you become a black belt. Anyway, that's all I got for you in this one. KAATARO.online.com, or come visit us at any of our 3 campuses. We have one in Flower Mound, Texas, one in Irvine, California, and one in Austin, Texas. We'd love to see you. Take care. Happy training. Bye now.